Hey everyone, Rarity Dash here, and it's time for another reaction request. If you have a video that you'd like me to react to, check the description below. There's a link that will take you to a Google document with all the relevant information. So today we're watching another Summoning Salt video, and I've enjoyed those. Though this one's a bit differently. It's not really about typical speedrunning. This is the history of Blindfolded Super Mario 64. So, yeah. We're back with more absolutely ridiculous ways to challenge yourself while playing Super Mario 64. Though I'm a little more on board for this than I am the A button challenge, I gotta say. Like, just the idea of actually physically blinding yourself with a blindfold while you try to play the game. That's just so absurd that you can't help but kind of be charmed by the idea. And I'm going to be impressed if they actually manage to get good times without the ability to see. Like, that's just pure memory in that case. Like, just knowing where everything is in the game and just exactly what buttons to press at the exact right time. So, this is, for people who can do this kind of thing, it's just a remarkable sort of feat. So, yeah. And unfortunately, with it being Summoning Salt, we're probably not going to actually like see a run, I don't think. Like, not a full one. That'd be kind of interesting. But we'll see clips. We'll see enough, I think, to kind of get the idea. But it's going to be more like, I guess, the history of who the top blindfolded Super Mario players were. And the back and forth between them and whatnot. Typical Summoning Salt stuff. I'm honestly kind of surprised that more than one person has even attempted this, but I guess if someone does it successfully, then it becomes a thing. And it becomes a thing that people can do, and I don't know. But yeah, apparently it is a thing, and apparently there are even people faking it, as the recommended video to the side kind of shows. Anyway, that all said, it's a fairly long video, 47 minutes, so let's just go ahead and waste no more time and get this started. Here we go.
Super Mario 64. One of the most iconic speedruns of all time.
Yeah.
Top level runs are beautiful. There's incredible movement, bizarre glitches, and awesome tricks. It all adds up to a super popular speedrun, giving Mario 64 the impressive legacy it has. But I've got a secret to share. All the gameplay you've just seen was performed with a blindfold on.
Wow! Doing
this
that movement
might sound
like,
too insane to be real, but for the past several years, players have been trying to speedrun Super Mario 64 without looking at the screen. How is this possible? How do you take a three-dimensional game and not only play it with your eyes closed, but practically make it look easy? Let's take a journey inside the minds of some of speedrunning's most impressive players. Welcome to the world.
I mean, I guess it just kind of happens when you like are a serious speedrunner. Like, you just do it. The whole game becomes muscle memory for you. Like.
And now a word from this video's sponsor, Rocket Money. I don't know about you, but I'm subscribed to a number of streaming services. I try to switch between them, subscribing for a while before moving to other ones. Only problem, I forget to cancel and end up paying for a service I'm not using. This is where Rocket Money can help. Rocket Money is the personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower bills, and manage your money better. I think Rocket Money is great for keeping track of your subscriptions. They identify recurring charges and cancel unwanted subscriptions for you. But they're also great for setting budgets. They can automatically monitor your spending by category and notify you when you've exceeded your limits. Rocket Money has helped save its customers an average of $740 a year, with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Join today by going to rocketmoney.com/summoningsalt, or by clicking on the link in the description to get started for free. You can unlock more features with a premium membership, but you can start off for free, so might as well try it and help out my channel. That's rocketmoney.com/summoningsalt. Blindfolded speedruns aren't a new concept. For years, Blindfolded runs have been a staple at Games Done Quick events, and runners have even grinded at home to optimize Blindfolded world records. But those were usually for simpler games. Compare that to Mario 64.
Yeah, 3 dimensions
3D
kind of makes it
gameplay
trickier.
and wide open levels. Getting consistency with this seemed out of the question, and for many years, nobody bothered trying. But then, we arrive in 2017, when the main character of our story comes onto the scene.
It did take a while to get there.
Meet Bubzia. Bubzia had seen players like RunnerGuy2489 and 360 Chrism play Blindfolded 3D games before, and it inspired him to see what he could do in Super Mario 64. Bubzia started by figuring out a few basic stars blindfolded. From there, he expanded to the rest of the game. He slowly built up his skills throughout 2017, and finally, by October, he was ready to try for the first full game completion of Blindfolded Super Mario 64. Here's how he did it. First off, this was a 16-star run of the game. Collecting at least 70 stars is the intended glitchless route, but that was not going to happen with a blindfold on. Instead, Bubzia performed a popular speedrunning route. Collect 16 of the easiest stars, then tackle a couple glitches to skip to the last stage. That was much more manageable than going for 70 stars.
Yeah.
Right from Bubzia's first inputs, you can see his general strategy. He ran forward until he heard Mario hit the wall, then turned right and kept going. It was slow, but these inputs were hard to mess up, and he eventually made it to the cutscene. In Bob-omb Battlefield, Bubzia worked on getting to the top of the mountain for the first star. He used the camera angles to his advantage. He'd run forward till he hit an object, then carefully adjusted the camera and kept moving forward. This normalized his movement and lined him up so he'd always end up running to the same place every time. After gradually inching his way up the slope, he got to use audio techniques on the boss. He backflipped to pick him up, then counted the audio of Mario's footsteps to know when he was in the middle. This lined him up so he was perfectly underneath the star when it spawned. Bubzia ended up collecting 3 stars in Bob-omb Battlefield, and they all followed the same idea. Very simple and safe setups to reliably work his way through the map. He then headed to Whomp's Fortress, where he ultimately picked up 5 more stars. He used a plethora of strategies to get these, slowly backflipping up the long ramp, running from wall to wall, and even using a bit of muscle memory. His setups were so normalized that whenever something went slightly off script, he usually couldn't recover and either died or restarted. This happened 9 times throughout Whomp's Fortress. Bubzia continued through the game, slowly but surely collecting stars. While a lot of his strategies looked safe, they required an unbelievable amount of memorization and skill to do blindfolded. None were harder than the Bowser stages. He needed inside-out knowledge of the level to ensure he could platform without looking. He had a clever strategy for the Bowser fight itself. By constantly letting go and re-grabbing his tail, Mario gradually moves forward. Eventually, you'll collide with the bomb, and skip having to somehow aim a Bowser fight without being able to see.
That's clever.
After an hour and 25 minutes, Bubzia had collected 15 stars. He had a precise setup to grab Mips the rabbit, and then counted Mario's footsteps to know when to turn through the hallways. To clip through the doors, Bubzia had more setups that involved re-grabbing Mips repeatedly. They worked, and Bubzia was through both doors after a few minutes. But then, he arrived at the hardest part of the entire run, Bowser in the Fire Sea. There are so many cycles, moving objects, and obstacles all over the place, that even with the best setups, Bubzia couldn't consistently make it through.
Yeah.
He had a few smart strategies to help. By listening to silly kicks, he could tell where the platform was in its cycle. A longer distance between each kick meant it was moving down. And a shorter distance meant it was moving up.
I guess that makes sense, because there's like a sense
And
of
later
gravity,
on, by backflipping onto this box, Bubzia knew that even if he took damage in the lava, he was lined up with the heart so he could recover.
Okay,
safe strategies like these helped, but it still took Bubzia nearly an hour to get through Fire Sea, with 11 deaths along the way. But eventually, he cleared the level, and after 2.5 hours, he was in the home stretch. Next up were backwards long jumps, and there was no big secret to doing these blindfolded. He just had to line up and hope his mashing got him through the door and up the stairs. And finally, Bowser in the Sky. It's quite similar to Fire Sea in that there's several cycles you have to deal with, the hardest being the 2 elevators right at the very end. But thanks to a combination of backflips, audio cues, and normalization setups, Bubzia made it through after 3 deaths. The final Bowser fight requires 3 throws, and Bubzia's strategy for the first 2 was letting Bowser run at him, then dropping him right into the bomb.
Okay.
That's not an option for throw 3. So, he had to just randomly spin Bowser and hope he hit a bomb. One random throw away from history being made.
Oh. You didn't expect that.
Okay, so calm down. I need to connect
the
star.
Great.
Calm down, guys.
Oh yeah, even finding the star.
Please, man, please. It should be to the left. 2 backflips or 1 backflip. No, that's not good.
One more.
Yes! We did it! Yes!
3 hours and 11 minutes. 12 minutes, basically.
Bubzia had shocked the world. He could literally beat Super Mario 64 with his eyes closed. Probably one of the craziest gaming achievements ever.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
His run did take over 3 hours, and he either died or restarted 33 times across the game. There was room for optimization.
Oh yeah.
If Bubzia so desired. But he didn't. He was the only person in the world capable of doing this.
Yeah, at that point.
And he was happy.
But then someone's gonna challenge. Someone else is gonna attempt
Bubzia
it. Done it.
While he was working on his 16-star run, there was another player on the other side of the world doing the exact same thing. Zerf. Neither player knew of the other's existence, and Bubzia's completed run came as a big surprise to Zerf. He was still working on individual stars. This other guy was way ahead of him. But Zerf wasn't deterred. He talked with Bubzia, learning some of his strategies while improving on his own. He found different routes to take and ways he could complete certain stars faster. By the time he started full game runs in early 2018, he was a much improved player. Zerf ended up beating Bubzia's run by a few minutes on February 2nd.
Okay, yeah.
And a month
Under
later,
3?
he took a full hour off the world record.
Oh.
Mario 64 completed Blindfolded in an hour and 58 minutes.
Wow.
A big part of the improvement was the fact that Zerf simply died less than Bubzia. He had to restart just 15 times across the run, compared to Bubzia's 33.
Yeah.
But his route through the game was also quicker. For one thing, he opted to collect both Peach Slide Stars. He had a fairly safe strategy to leap over the edge and make it to the end before 21 seconds. That's fast for a blindfolded star. He also switched out a couple stars in Hazy Maze Cave to save a bit more time. But beyond the route changes, Zerf was simply faster than Bubzia. He used more audio cues to his advantage. For instance, in the Bowser stages, he could tell where the rotating platforms were based on what part of the background music was playing. And just all over the run, Zerf's strategies were a bit riskier, running up a slope rather than backflipping, and using fewer setups. Meanwhile, as Zerf was lowering the Mario 64 blindfolded record, Bubzia was working on other blindfolded games, most notably Pokemon and Kingdom Hearts. He planned to come back to Mario 64 eventually, but if nothing else, these other games were still helping him improve as a blindfolded speedrunner. He picked up on different blindfolded strategies and ideas while he played. And as the months passed, Bubzia realized there was one technique that might really help with Mario 64. something that would make his movement look much more fluid, almost like he was playing with his eyes open. That fall, Bubzia came back to Mario 64, implementing a trick called beat counting.
Okay.
Beat counting is essentially using the background music's beat as a metronome to time your inputs to. Now, it's important to note that this isn't the same as a music cue. That's where you wait for a specific moment in the song to use as a cue. Instead, beat counting is simply having a consistent frame of reference, in this case the beat of the song, to help time different inputs. For example, you can run forward, then know to jump after 3 beats, then press jump again after 4 more beats, and so on. This can help make otherwise brutal sections become nearly trivial, as it replaces insane muscle memory with consistent inputs. Beat counting was first implemented in Super Mario 64 by a player named toThe, who used it in his 70-star run. It helped him all over, allowing for fluid movement that looked like a visual player at times. After seeing it utilized in other speed games, Bubzia decided he had to try using it in 16-star. So, in September 2018, he came back to Super Mario 64. He wanted to see how much time he could take off of Zerf's record of 1 hour and 58 minutes. How much could beat counting help? Well, right away, Bubzia saved time on the very first star. He picked up a box and navigated into the corner of the gate by beat counting. By then setting it down on top of Mario's hitbox, he got pushed behind the gate and was able to collect the star. This is an obscure old trick known as box clip, and predates the more traditional bomb clip used in modern visual runs. New strategies with beat counting were used throughout the game. Often, these helped big time with consistency as well as being faster. The slide in Cool Cool Mountain was now beat counted, and Bubzia had a safer MIPS grab thanks to beat counting too. But the biggest time saves with beat counting were the Bowser stages, especially Fire Sea. As you recall, this is probably the hardest level in the run. It took Zerf over 17 minutes to get through it in his world record. But here, Bubzia used a beat count for the entire stage developed by toThe. Highlights included a section in the middle where he navigated without adjusting the camera. Since he couldn't see anyway, there was no point in changing the camera.
Yeah, that's true.
He still knew exactly where to go. Bubzia flew through the whole level, and ultimately, he completed it in just 2 minutes. A 15-minute time save over Zerf. That's the power of beat counting. Bubzia was cruising. The run was far from perfect, but after demolishing Fire Sea, he knew he was way ahead of Zerf's world record. He couldn't see his exact pace, of course, but he knew it had potential to be a big record. The backwards long jumps went well, and thanks to beat counting and other audio cues, Bowser in the sky was quick too. Once again, it all came down to hitting this last Bowser throw. And then he could find out just what type of pace this really was.
You can't really check your time splits on a blindfolded run.
Yes! Yes!
Big difference.
Someone! 50
Wow! Whole hour off. The other guy ended 2 hours off from your previous time.
This was ahead of even his wildest dreams. Not only was it sub-hour, but it was sub-hour by several minutes. The whole game beaten blindfolded in 53 minutes. The run did have its slow moments. He died a handful of times, and the worst part was when he had to intentionally drown to restart in Dire Docks. But being able to cut a world record in half did not happen very often.
Yeah?
This was everything Bubzia wanted and more. Beat counting had changed blindfolded Mario 64 forever. But once again, Bubzia decided this was a good place to stop. Despite there still being
someone else is going to come along and
he remained interested in exploring other blindfolded speedruns. So he stopped playing, and for the next year, his blindfolded world record remained unchallenged.
Actually, I haven't seen many Metroid Fusion.
But of course, Bubzia wasn't going to stay away for long.
Super Metroid.
16-star was his bread and butter. And if you've seen my other videos, generally people who dominate a game can't help but come back to it time and time again.
Yeah.
Bubzia wanted to see just how low he could take the Blindfolded record. So, after a 10-month break, he spent the summer of 2019 rerouting the run, changing up the start
I guess he didn't need
trying
someone else
to
to
optimize his strategies. By August, he was ready to start up runs again. And over the course of just 11 days, he did this.
Wow. Yeah. It's becoming second nature to him now.
I'm not happy, man. I'm not happy at all.
Full on montage here.
No way, he did.
He didn't realize you slid ahead, did he?
Are you kidding me? Oh, dude.
Oh, crap. Yeah.
Oh my god. No, dude.
Sub 40 is what he's going for? Yeah, he's getting there. Nice.
An unbelievable grind. Thanks to a combination of beat counting, incredible muscle memory, and a ton of skill, Bubzia had beaten Super Mario 64 Blindfolded in under 40 minutes. This run had one big mistake. During MIPS, he got lost and had to quit back to the menu. It cost about 2 minutes, so a 36-minute run would be the limit. But there were no major mistakes anywhere else. 38 minutes was incredibly optimized for this type of run. It was exactly what he was looking for. Bubzia really was the king of Blindfolded Mario 64. Hardly anyone else had tried it, and those who had were well behind him.
Yeah.
He could do with his eyes closed what others couldn't do with their eyes open. And this 38-minute run was his magnum opus. Bubzia was finally done with the grind. No one else even approaching his times.
We're only halfway done, though, not even.
And then, 3 weeks later, something very interesting happened.
Someone else
completely out of the blue, a new submission appeared for the Blindfolded Mario 64 leaderboards. The player's name was Nobori56.
Oh, Japanese player doing it.
He was claiming to have performed a 35-minute blindfolded run.
Okay.
A new world record. Nobody in the community had heard of him before, and having someone brand new instantly claim a big world record was suspicious, to say the least.
Oh, is this the guy that other video was about?
When the community watched his run, it only got stranger. He wasn't beat counting at all. In fact, it seemed like nearly everything he did was muscle memory. It looked an awful lot like he could see what was happening on screen, at least somewhat. Blindfolded speedruns can be easy to fake. If you can get any vision through your blindfold, it makes the run magnitudes easier. This was a tough one to call. Maybe Nobori was just an unbelievable blindfolded gamer. Or maybe he was a cheater. Over the following few weeks, Nobori continued submitting runs, and gradually, everything became clear.
Yeah, this is it.
Nobori was 100% legit, and he was actually that good.
Oh, really? Okay.
So here's the thing with Nobori. He has an absolute knack for developing muscle memory. Once he does a trick with his eyes open, it doesn't take much practice until he can consistently do it without looking. Therefore, the idea of beat counting never even entered his mind, and he was able to perform nearly everything faster. Even right from their first movements in the castle, you can see the difference. Bubzia had to set up his moves and work his way to the first door, but Nobori adjusted the camera at the perfect moment to do this.
Yeah.
Basically indistinguishable from a visual runner. How about getting to Peach's slide? Genuinely impressive, even with eyes open. It was more of the same with the stars. Nobori went for super fast strategies, no beat count setups necessary. Even though he died a few times, the time save for moving faster more than made up for it. But as you might expect, the place that Nobori improved the most was the Bowser stages. When Bubzia played Bowser in the sky, he kept moving but didn't do anything too flashy. Super impressive for being blindfolded, but nobody would mistake it for a speed run. Nobori, on the other hand...
Wow.
Standing left side and elevator skip. It's really hard to believe that all this is possible while blindfolded.
Yeah, that's...
But in case there's any doubt Nobori couldn't see, at the end of every run, he took off his 18 blindfolds.
Yeah, okay.
Anyone could see through all that. He was simply so much better than any other blindfolded player. He was running while the rest were walking.
Like superhuman
Nobori
levels
a
of
26-minute blindfolded run of Super Mario 64. Simply inconceivable just a few weeks ago. There's one more moment of Nobori's run I want to talk about. The final Bowser throw right at the very end. This throw had a few different strategies over the years. Bubzia's initial method was to just blindly throw and hope it hit a bomb. But Zerf realized that since the whoosh sound occurs at the same time in every spin, you could sync up your joystick to the spinning and know exactly when to release Bowser to hit a bomb. This was the strategy that Bubzia preferred to use, but Nobori took it a step further and used something else that Zerf had found. By pausing during the whoosh sound, you could listen to the echo and judge whether or not Mario is facing the bomb. If he's not, then you simply unpause and try again. But if he is, then you can immediately unpause and throw Bowser. It'll hit the bomb every time. This is a brilliant example of turning a seemingly impossible task, landing a blindfolded Bowser throw, into something relatively consistent. Even though he was miles ahead of everyone else, Nobori still felt he could save time over his 26-minute run. He died a couple times and had a particularly slow MIPS grab. So, a few months later, Nobori came back and improved the record to 25 minutes. A run that would have been even faster had he not failed to grab Bowser's tail and had to redo the fight. And just 2 days after that, Nobori made one more improvement. This run was truly incredible from start to finish. He collected the first 11 stars quickly, with no substantial time losses. He died once in Hazy Maze Cave, but it didn't cost him badly. His MIPS grab was instantaneous, right in front of the door. His Bowser stages were all fantastic, his BLJs were super quick, and on the last fight, he grabbed Bowser's tail and landed the third throw. No retries needed.
Nice.
24 minutes is a genuinely respectable time with your eyes open. Nobori had optimized this run to insane standards. Hard to believe it was all actually possible.
How are we going to go up from there?
Bubzia, it was tough to accept what had just happened. He'd been the king of blindfolded Mario 64 for years, and Nobori had demolished all of his times. When Bubzia tried doing Nobori's strategies, he could eventually pull most of them off, but his consistency was poor. Definitely not good enough to complete a full run with them. Bubzia had to accept that he wasn't going to be beating Nobori's record. For the next year, Blindfolded 16 star had no activity. There was no point when the world record was this good. Players focused on other categories with less optimized records. And unsurprisingly, Nobori took the top spot for those too. Just pure domination. But eventually, everything calmed down. Nobori stopped playing, and the rest didn't bother trying to beat all the records,
I guess.
It almost felt like he had killed Blindfolded Mario 64. But then, in October 2020, Bubzia managed to get 16 star into that year's Awesome Games Done Quick. This was the first time anyone would be showing off Blindfolded Mario 64 on such a big stage.
That's gonna make it more popular.
Bubzia may not have been on Nobori's level, but he wanted to put on a good show. So, he knew he had to get practicing. Bubzia didn't have any illusions of trying to take the record. Instead, he focused on playing for fun, looking for new strategies and not taking things too seriously. And maybe he can improve a bit on his 38-minute PB. Since Nobori's crazy muscle memory strategies were out of the question, Bubzia focused on beat counting strategies. He found faster ones in Womp's Fortress and Cool Mountain.
Gotta do it
and
once
on Bowser in the Sky, beat counting allowed him to make a faster elevator cycle at the start. But despite lots of practice, he was still slower than Nobori and he was dying more. The improvements slowly started to come in. First, a 37-minute run, and then nearly a month later, a 35-minute run. Both of these had substantial time losses on the BLJs, so Bubzia knew he had the potential to go a few minutes lower. But this is exactly what he was looking for. Even if he wasn't competing with Nobori, it was still nice to see some improvements. And as the weeks passed, Bubzia kept getting better. His movement was faster and he was dying less often. He started going for Lakitu skips sometimes. It wasn't very consistent, but getting it at all while blindfolded was amazing. Bubzia's potential was much faster than 35 minutes, if he could just string it all together in a run.
Fast mips, okay, it's very good. Okay, please BLJs, dude. It will come down to BLJs, dude. I'm up. Oh my god, that would have been sub 30, dude.
This was a fantastic run for Bubzia. He nailed nearly all of his strategies, and had he not missed a throw on Bowser and had to restart, the run would have been a sub 30. But still, it was a great improvement. He wasn't quite on Nobori's level, but he was getting closer. And even though it took months to get here, this was a clear improvement. Nobori hadn't played the category in a long time. Maybe Bubzia had the chance to close the gap even more. But instead, right after Bubzia's new PB, Nobori came back.
It's me, Mario.
He made it seem effortless. Nobori's strategies were somehow even faster than before. To get to the top of Womp's
be out of
Fortress,
practice,
instead of teleporting, he jumped off the slope while sliding to make it up. He switched up a few stars and had a brilliant strategy to hit the Talon star in Shifting Sandland. And most importantly, it was just incredible that he was doing all this while blindfolded. Occasionally, he'd have a moment that looked obvious, like when he struggled to collect stars that were right in front of him. But he'd turn around the next moment and do something like this. Mind-blowing. Bubzia had improved, yes, but he was not on Nobori's level. It almost seemed like he could lower the record at will. But he decided to stop here. With the world record down to 23 minutes, Nobori had once again killed the competition in blindfolded 16 star. Bubzia knew he wasn't beating this. Nobody was beating it. So instead, he spent much of 2021 focusing on a new challenge, routing a blindfolded 120 star run. This was a massive undertaking, and took up most of his gaming time throughout the year. Yet, even though he wasn't playing the more competitive category in 16-star, working on 120-star still helped him improve at the game. He was optimizing the stars for speed, and as a result, found some new strategies. For instance, in Bob on Battlefield, he found a consistent setup for Bomb Clip, the iconic trick used to get behind the fence quickly. It saves 20 seconds, and looks pretty darn impressive given it's performed blindfolded. After practicing 120-star for several months, Bubzia came back to the game's shorter categories in late 2021, quickly sweeping through each one to lower his PBs. In 16-star, he managed to get a 28-minute run featuring his new tricks. Still slower than Nobori, especially in the Bowser stages, but a decent improvement. After this, he went back to working on 120-star, and Nobori's record remained as safe as ever. At this point, he'd held the record for more than 2 years. Bubzia hadn't been able to catch him, and nobody else was within 15 minutes of him. As 2022 came around, it was really seeming like this was Nobori's record to keep. He could simply do things with a blindfold on that nobody else could. At least, nobody who had tried so far. The only hope of beating Nobori was somebody new coming along,
Nobori
who had their own set of incredible blindfolded skills. Someone like Hendyman.
Alright. Let's go, Hendyman.
In late 2021, Hendyman became infatuated with blindfolded Super Mario 64. That September, he became just the third person to beat the game blindfolded in under an hour.
Nice.
By January, his time was down to 35 minutes. And by March, he lowered his PB to right behind Bubzia. Impressive improvement from a relative newcomer to blindfolded gaming. Hendy's playstyle was like a hybrid between Bubzia and Nobori. He didn't beat count with numbers, but didn't fully rely on muscle memory either. Many of his fastest strategies involved music cues. He'd mess around in a level with his eyes open and figure out how to time certain actions to the music. Eventually, he'd find a series of inputs that gave him the best consistency and practice it relentlessly until he could do it blindfolded. Hendy got really good at this, and it paid off with a 28-minute run. He fell behind Bubzia while collecting the stars since he died a few times, but he was actually faster than Bubzia down the stretch. It was gold split after gold split for Mips, Fire Sea, and Bowser in the Sky. After hitting the last throw on Bowser, he knew he had a big PB.
Let's go! Holy sh!
A couple months later, Hendy got on another good run. It started with both Lakitu Skip and Bomb Clip, and then he gained big time in Bowser in the Dark World. Unfortunately, he struggled and then died in Hazy Maze Cave, died twice in Fire Sea, and died on Bowser at the very end. That's 4 deaths. Yet he still PB'd by a full minute, and moved ahead of Bubzia into second place.
Wow.
Hendy had gotten really good. Despite several minutes of time loss, the rest of his run was so fast that he couldn't help but PB. Hendy's movement and speed was incredible, and it was honestly starting to look a lot like Nobori. The only thing he didn't have was Nobori's consistency. These mistakes made up the bulk of the difference. It was safe to say that Hendy was officially a world record contender.
Yeah.
And over the next few months,
learn that consistency.
Things would get quite interesting. Hendy started practicing the last few tricks he needed to learn, like standing left side and elevator skip. And most importantly, he worked hard to build his consistency. He knew that he had the skills to get this world record. He just needed to hold it together for long enough and get it all to line up in one run.
I don't know what just happened. I think I fat-fingered A. Dude! Yeah!
You did Super Mario 64 16-star blindfolded in 2016.
Yeah, that gap is closing.
did super blindfolded in 25 minutes and 11 seconds.
Wow. 2 minutes of difference.
You did Super Mario 64.
That's 3
Person
days
best.
in a row.
Just a minute
Hendy was
left.
closing in. This was a 24-minute run with 2 deaths and other scattered time losses throughout. There was easily a minute worth of improvements he could make. But Hendy was getting exhausted. Doing hundreds of runs with your eyes closed gets monotonous, and he enjoyed looking for strategies more than he enjoyed doing runs. So, even though he was so close, Hendy decided to take a break from 16 star and instead focus on Blindfolded 1 star, an even shorter category. Meanwhile, Bubzia was watching everything Hendy did in 16 star. He was amazed at how close he'd gotten to Nobori, and after completing the world's first Blindfolded 120 star run in May, Bubzia was ready for a new challenge. He'd improved so much while on the 120 star grind, and had gotten especially good at searching for new strategies. Bubzia had turned into a new player. His old 28-minute PB in 16 star was in a distant 3rd place. In July 2022, he embarked on a quest to change
honestly, it's
that.
not that distant.
Bubzia still couldn't rely on muscle memory as heavily as Nobori. That meant his gameplay would generally be a bit slower as he had to set things up more. But if he could make up the difference with faster strategies, maybe he had a chance at this. He and Hendy found new tricks all across the run, like triple jumping off the womp while going up top, and long jumping straight across the gap in Dark World. These small improvements began to add up, but the heavy hitters were in the final 2 Bowser stages. Bubzia found a beat count to reach Nobori's elevator cycle in Fire Sea, cutting out his muscle memory strategies while matching his speed. And in Bowser in the Sky, Bubzia decided he had to commit to going for everything. Standing left side, elevator skip, and even doing a triple jump dive onto the rotating platform.
God,
Bubzia knew this would help make up for some of the speed and movement difference, but would it be enough? That July, he got on a run that fell about 45 seconds behind Nobori after the first 8 stars. After accidentally quitting out of Lethal Lava Land and missing the star in Dire Dire Docks, his deficit rose to over 2.5 minutes. But he did manage to gain time on the BLJs and executed his new Bowser in the Sky strategies to perfection. The end result was a 25:49, 2 minutes behind the record and 1 minute behind Hendy. Bubzia was a changed player.
An improvement.
Look, he hadn't held the record in 3 years now. Nobori had always been just too dominant to beat. But this run was proof that finally, he was fast enough. The world record was within reach. If Bubzia could clean up a couple blunders in the middle of the run, then he could finally get the top spot back.
I mean, what's to stop like Nobori from learning the new strategies?
Bubzia got off to a great start. He hit all his new strategies through Dark World and had a 20-second lead over Nobori. In Lethal Lava Land, he looked like a visual runner collecting the 8 coins. No hesitations. He nailed getting on the submarine in Dire Dire Docks and had a beautiful Fire Sea. All of a sudden, Bubzia had himself a deathless run into the BLJs.
You gotta be so nervous trying to do this. Anything can go wrong.
Boom!
Oh.
Yes!
Oh, wow.
It's over.
After 3 long years, Bubzia was back on top. It had taken a monumental effort to beat Nobori, but it all paid off. He still couldn't use muscle memory the way Nobori did. Nobody could. But through years of strategizing and improving, he was able to make up the difference anyway. Congratulations poured in, and Bubzia pondered what to do next. A sub 23-minute run was definitely within reach, but ultimately, he decided a 23:17 was good enough, and moved on to other categories.
Is everyone else going to move on?
In the time since this run, Hendy and Nobori have been inactive from Blindfolded gaming. Bubzia, on the other hand, after taking a break for a few months, he returned to 16-star by early 2023. Okay. And ever since then, he's been on a quest for a sub 20-minute Blindfolded run. Sub 20 is a milestone for visual runners. Taking the Blindfolded world record there would be completely insane, but that's what Bubzia is determined to do. It all started when Bubzia and Nico, the category's current 4th place runner, began developing a way to perform blindfolded LBLJ. This trick is used in top-level visual runs. By jumping into an out-of-bounds area in the lobby, it's possible to then precisely do a backwards long jump that sends you into Bowser in the Dark World, an area that normally requires 8 stars. Once there, you want to collect the 8 red coins to obtain a star, so that you can later head straight to Womp's Fortress. They found methods to complete LBLJ and the red coins blindfolded, but obviously it was a major difficulty increase. And when combining that with other tricks like Owlless and improving movement everywhere, they reasoned that a sub 20-minute run was indeed possible. But possible and realistic are 2 separate things. In mid-2023, Bubzia decided to make a push for the sub 20. Quickly though, he found that the LBLJ route was far too inconsistent. After abandoning it, he focused on optimizing the rest of the run, and managed to lower the record down to 22 minutes.
Yeah! A minute!
But to get the sub 20, Bubzia knew the LBLJ had to be implemented. In January 2024, he took another look at the route with Nico and another community member, Honeybeef. They realized it would be faster to skip Cool Cool Mountain entirely, adding another star in Shifting Sandland and Lethal Lava Land instead. This saved another 20 seconds, and now, Bubzia felt that he had to commit to LBLJ. The upside was too good to pass up. On February 15th, 2024, Bubzia managed to land LBLJ and the Reds in his fastest time ever.
World records!
He struggled a bit with the new stars, dying once each in Shifting Sandland and Lethal Lava Land, but even still, he was hitting most of his new strategies. He had a clean Fire Sea, then got both BLJs first try. After flying through Bowser in the Sky, Bubzia had a chance at a big world record.
Not sub 20 though.
No!
Oh.
No, I think I threw it. Yes! Okay, at least second try, man. Yes!
Still a personal best.
Yeah.
A 21-minute run with 2 deaths and a missed throw. It wouldn't have quite been a sub 20, but clearly the run still has room to go lower. And this 21:48 is where the record stands today. Bubzia is still actively pushing for the sub 20, and if Hendy or Nobori come back, they can certainly get there too.
This is 10 months ago.
It's unreal to see the progression from Bubzia's first blindfolded run 6 years ago to what he and others can pull off today. They went from barely limping through the game to flying through like a visual runner. All this difference in just 6 years. I don't know about you, but I can't wait to see what another 6 years of progression will do to this run. Thanks for watching.
Has anything happened?
For a behind-the-scenes look at how I made this video and storylines that I couldn't include, join my Patreon page. I only charge when I upload a video. Thanks.
speedrun.com, I think is the site we use, right? Let's see if there are any updates. I would assume it's forever on the first page, yes. I don't know. You guys will just have to let me know instead. I can't find it. Let me know if there have been any changes to the story, if the other two came back, or if he got it sub 20. Because it's a very interesting story. Like, this might actually be the most interesting one yet, weirdly enough. Just because there is, like, the physical feat of them doing this crazy thing while blindfolded. Like, that just makes it kind of next level. I don't know. It's just kind of insane. But, fun video. Definitely a cool story. And interesting. And it is cool that he was able to get the world record back, though. I do have to think that if Nobori ever wanted to play it again, since he's the better player, admittedly, if he just learned some of the new strategies, he could probably take the record right back. But you never know. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the reaction. Let me know if you did, and see you in the next one.